Hello, and welcome to Let's Get Digital. I'm your host, Megan Nager.
And I am Corey Turner.
And we are the owners of Wake and Make Media, which is a full-scale digital marketing agency and production house that specializes in creating high-quality digital content. Sounds like a mouthful, I know, but very simply put, we are expert marketers. We're filmmakers turned marketers. We worked in Hollywood for 10 years, and we have created the show to bring you our skills, knowledge, and expertise about all things digital marketing. And today we are talking about the importance of branding, which happens to be one of my favorite topics, in case you are wondering. And I am very excited to talk about this because I think branding is one of the most important elements that you need to pay attention to when you are undergoing marketing journey, or when you're on your marketing journey. Branding is very important. So I am very excited about it. And now let's get into it.
Absolutely. So as we said earlier, I'm Corey. You might have noticed a little change in the scenery. We are no longer in our old-fashioned radio station. We are now in our studio. And so we're coming to you live on YouTube, no delay, straight to you. Happy to be here. If you want to know anything more about us, check us out at wakeandmakemedia.com. I forgot to mention our new office space, or studio space, which I really happen to like a lot. Much more beautiful,
relaxing, minimal, chic. So we're going to talk about branding. We are kind of just going to spitball with this one because when we went to come up with this topic, we were like, you know what, there's so much to cover when it comes to branding. We don't even know where to begin. So I would basically just want to start by saying I love branding because I think at the end of the day, I'd say I'm a storyteller. That's why I started in the entertainment industry as an actor, then went on to write, produce, edit, and overall very quickly learned that I loved storytelling, and being able to create your own content allows you to tell the story that you want to tell. And I think a lot of brands and businesses forget that. I'm talking to the camera. I feel like I should be talking to you.
Okay. Right here.
Okay. So Corey,
I'm alive. I'm a human being.
Hi. I forgot.
I'm a human being. Hi.
Hello. I know you're a human being. Yes, I know. Yes. Hi.
Very nice to see you.
So, all right. So I feel like a lot of brands and businesses I've noticed, and it took me a minute to think about this because I've created like a personal brand with comedy. So when we went to start doing marketing, it took me a minute to realize like, oh, a personal brand is really the same thing as just a business brand or a business. It's the same thing. So like a personal brand is, for instance, like an artist. A lot of them will have their own Instagram, YouTube, sometimes like apparel, everything, seasoning if you're a chef. That is a person who has their own brand. It's the same thing if we're selling, if it's somebody who owns like a big handy, like a repair shop or whatever. Let's say car repair shop, okay? You can put personal branding in a car repair shop. And I think a lot of brands and businesses forget that you need to implement that like very personal aspect into your business, because it not only really helps, it also helps you stand out. And it also, I think, like infuses your business with more like passion and enthusiasm because you realize like how personal it is.
Yeah, I feel like personal brands are more of a new thing. I feel like it was always, like there's like a business brand, there's something that you're like, there's people behind the brand, and
right.
That's business or like store or something like that. But I feel like just more recently, sports players like didn't have endorsements or anything until I think like the 70s or something like that with Arnold.
Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer. Yeah, whatever that guy's name is. He was like the first one, and I feel like now it's like everybody has their own brand because of social media, websites, everything like that. But I think the gist is the same thing. Like it's telling a story that you want to tell and you want people to know, and you're going to kind of create it. You could bring it up from scratch. You want to just like make it happen, so you're showing only the finer things, only the nicer things. that you want to present, and it all comes out with, like the TV show, like a TV character or something like that. I'm kind of rambling here.
I've lost you on
Yeah, I know.
the ending part. But like, no, but it's a very good point in that I didn't really think about, the personal brand is like a fairly new concept.
Right,
but
that's all I was trying to say.
Okay, so we got. So the personal brand is a new concept, which is very interesting to think about because it feels like it's been around forever, but it really kind of started with Arnold Palmer in the 70s, but really I think took off and people are more familiar with it because of social media. And so
Right.
I think that it's helped, though, I think give people more of a insight into how you can really bring just a brand or a business that seems just like a impersonal brand or business. Like it can give it some more zest and oomph. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think what we really want to go through is why you're building the brand and the story and everything like that is so you're not super duper salesy, right?
Yes,
the whole point of it is to tell a story to humanize that store or something like that. In a business aspect, we want to humanize because the days of this toothpaste will cure cancer. Right. Buy this now or I'll beat you up or something like that.
Or I'll beat you.
Those ads aren't really working in 2022, 2023 very soon. So it's really just like telling a story, engaging, and having a human connection with your customers. And that's why you need to tell a story because that is what's going to work nowadays. Because, it's like that's why big companies are dropping people who might be who might be not perfect in the limelight right now. Like brands will drop them like no business. Doesn't matter if they're making sales off them.
Oh, you mean if they're like controversial, they're dropping them?
Yeah, it's controversial. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying because? Can you expand on that? They're dropping them because
it's hurting their brand story. I think. For instance, like Kanye West, like he was making, I think, millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for Adidas.
Oh, yeah.
Because of what he said, they dropped him because they would rather take the money hit and then hurt their brand story.
That's true. Although I do think that if you when brands fixate on that becomes a problem because then you're dictating the conversation.
Right, and I think we're going way far into these brands that have been curating their brand story for years and years and years. But I think we want to talk about maybe new companies and why it's important to build that story, build that brand.
Yes.
Right?
So basically, I was thinking yes. So we kind of just went very macro to let's get into the micro concept. So basically, yes. Overall,
welcome to Let's Get Digital.
Let's Get Digital, where we ramble about marketing. But I feel like this is like a philosophical marketing debate about branding. Very interesting points, though, and I do think that it is why brands are very hyper fixated on big brands, on the culture and their brand image, and they are quick to get kind of weed people out who they think are negatively affecting them, even if they lose money, because that's how important their image is. So, taking all that into account, I think that I don't think it's healthy to fixate on your brand. I think a lot of creators can get super hyper fixated on what's my brand, and you get stuck in one very narrow niche, however you say that word. But I do think that let's go to the very beginning. What is branding? So branding essentially is bringing what I thought, I really liked what you said, bringing the human element to a brand and helping it stand out,
to a business.
To a business. Thank you. To a business, setting it apart and giving it a unique story or point of view. Right? Would you explain that as branding?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I feel it's like a brand story. Exactly.
Yeah. So creating a brand story.
Yeah, exactly. And Yeah, I think you nailed it. I don't know
Yeah.
if I have anything to say,
Okay,
anything
all
to
right.
add about that, but that's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the importance of, so let's start, say you're a new company and you're a shoe company and you started this shoe company. I'm literally pulling this out of my butt. You started
Are you sure you don't want to do lawn chairs?
Yeah, because I keep literally bringing it up in my head and I'm trying to stay away from it because I have a problem. So we're going to do shoes today.
Oh, nice.
So say you started this shoe company because, actually I have a friend who I've not spoken to in a few years, but she started a shoe company. I'm going to use this as an example. It's called Talaria Flats. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me shouting them out. But she had gone to a bunch of weddings back to back to back to back when she was in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. And she noticed that her and all of her girlfriends, their feet were always really hurting because you're dancing, you're standing in heels. If you're a woman, you'll understand this. Like, it hurts to stand in heels, especially at a wedding when you're running around, dancing, talking to a million people. It's painful. And a lot of times at weddings, like, I've ended up taking my shoes off, put them on the side, and numerous times, twice my shoes have been stolen. And another
Those
time,
are expensive shoes.
yeah, and another time I cut my foot on a piece of glass because I'm running around barefoot. And so, which was totally my fault. So she created this concept after having personally experienced this problem of these really pretty silk flats that you can roll up and they can easily fit in a very small purse, like the smallest clutch possible. And they're very inexpensive for what they are, and you can buy them and you can get them for bridesmaids and they can match their dresses and whatever. So it was a very personal problem. She noticed a need to, there was a problem. She created a solution and she told her personal story, and the company ended up doing very well. But I think that, one, it obviously inspired her to create the business, which is obviously very powerful and will keep you motivated and want you to keep working on it when things get tough. And it also shows the power of, telling your story. I think that it was really powerful. I think women totally related to it. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, this is genius. I don't know why nobody's thought of this because it's so simple. And yeah, so that's a good example of how very simple branding based on a personal story can really revolutionize a company.
Also, what I like that she did too is she did two things at the same time. So one thing that we always say in marketing is that you want to sell the end goal. That you're not selling a piece of rubber or silk or whatever that you put under your feet. You're selling that your feet don't hurt anymore at a wedding and you didn't lose your shoes. So she's selling herself as a person who's gone through that. And so at the same time, you see it from a human perspective, but you also see that she's gained in the end because, her feet don't hurt her. And also she hasn't lost her shoes. So it was 2 in 1. And that's something you could do if you do it right. You could group those two things together. And that's why it's so powerful to tell a story rather than be $7.99 for this silk sock.
Right. It's just because there's a million companies that could rip that concept off, but hers is always going to do better because it's just much more powerful. Hearing a personal story, I mean, that's why people love stories. People love, that's why people go to the movies. And I think it resonates more with an audience and with customers. So Corey, because I know you and I are just, I think it took us to a minute to, or at least I'm speaking for myself. It took me a minute to realize that we were automatically implementing this storytelling aspect into the work for some of our clients. So let's talk about a client that we really kind of pushed the brand wise, that you're happy of or thinks could fit this example.
Sure. I think maybe the fitness brand that we work with. I mean, basically what they're selling is a overpriced workout video that was shot, I think 8 years ago or something like that. And it's multiple hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue a year. And it's because they tell the story. They show this doctor found this certain way to work out for women in menopause, and through that way that he he did all this research and everything like that.
And it was, well, sorry, not to interrupt you. Wasn't it also like inspired by his mom? Like his mom was the one who had a hard time losing weight, and he was a doctor, so he was like trying to.
Exactly. So he was a personal trainer and a doctor,
okay.
and so he was trying to personal train, and he was just like, do more push-ups, Mom. I don't understand why you're not losing weight. This doesn't make any sense. And so he like put on his research cap, and he found out that there was no like menopause research doctors out there. And it's funny because he's like this big buff bald dude, not the person you'd expect to be a menopause.
Yeah, it's Dr. Jade Tita, and so I just assumed it was a woman. And then I started doing like this program because really just hearing the story and working with them made me want to do it. Like it obviously works. And so when I saw his face, I laughed really hard because I was like, oh, that is the opposite of what I was envisioning.
Yeah, everybody seems to think it's a girl. It's pretty funny. But anyways, so to wrap it up, basically they're selling that story and how he found this like very intricate way, different way than everybody else to lose weight, and it's been selling for a decade, and it's just it's just an old workout tape.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's like the quintessential. If they just said like, was that P90X, like get jacked for $35 a month, and that's it, they probably would have gone out of business quick.
For sure.
But they're selling that story and they're selling that end goal. And it's works out pretty well for them.
Totally. So I think it's also important to think about if you are a new brand or business, or if you are already an existing one and you want to go back and revisit your story or even implement a story if you haven't had one yet. I think that's really important to think about. So if you haven't, think about that. And
I got one quick thing.
Yeah, go.
And I feel like this kind of wraps up why like these no-name things on Amazon, you might have bought a bunch of times, like some brand called like Ching Chong or something. That was bad. Young Lu, my bad.
I think that might be just as bad.
That's a real brand. Young Lu is like a.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's like filmmaking or something like that. But
I love this.
But like this like unknown thing, and you're just like, what is this? I don't know what this brand is. Like, I see a couple pictures on Amazon, like whatever. I'll spend up to like $50 on this thing. But the same thing from like Allbirds or something like that. That's like this brand that's all good for the environment and everything like that, and they just preach it to you with marketing over and over again. It's the same shoe. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, but one's 3 times more expensive, and you want to pay that because you trust them because of their brand imaging and everything like that. It's just so important, and it's 100% because of their story and the BS that they're selling you. I'm sure it's not all BS, but I'm just saying that the story they're selling you.
It's true. They're selling a story. Exactly. So I think a few tips to think about if you want to implement this, which you should, or if you want to go back, revamp, etc. I'd go back to the very beginning, go back to the drawing board. Like, what inspired you to start this business? What inspired you to start this brand, launch this product, etc.? Even if it's your own stuff, you're a blogger, you're a YouTuber, you're a newscaster. Why did you start this? What propelled you to do that? And what are you there to, show the world, show your customers, sell your customers? You're most likely trying to fix some sort of problem. So think about that, and I would just start writing. That's what I think, both of us do when we start working with someone new. You have to really get to know the company, the people behind the company. And some people who own businesses don't, a lot of like people we work with, CEOs, owners, they don't want to be known. They don't want their personal story out there. That's totally fine. You can leave the person out of it if you want to. But if it's a product, for instance, CBD, we work with a lot of CBD brands. Go back to the drawing board and think about why you started this brand. Did you want to help people? Were you maybe like personally injured? Was one of your friends injured? There's just so many ways to think about it. And that I think the more truthful you are, the more impactful your story usually is. And Leroy also obviously agrees because he decided to show up and start sniffing.
Yes, Leroy is our corgi, and he's, I guess, just getting a little.
He's a marketing mascot, I'd say.
He's our marketing mascot. Cute guy. Yeah, and then so Megan, what are some ways once we have that story written and we know what we want to do, we know who we want to target? What kind of ways can we show off our story? Can we make our story come to life? Everything from like our website to I know one videos that like what kind of things can we do to show off our story to our customers and our soon to be customers?
Great questions, Corey. I think that yes, obviously I always want to say video, because video is one of the most powerful storytelling channels you could use. You got
video. You got pictures and you got audio all at the same time.
There you go. And they're moving pictures, so it's even more powerful.
Crazy.
But really, like, the easiest way to tell a story, thank you so much, Leroy. The easiest way to tell a story is, the easiest way to tell a story is in a very, you could do it in 30 seconds, is to create a powerful video. And we happen to be expert video makers, so we could handle that for you. Mm-hmm. You could also make your own video and tell it yourself. I think having a very short, well done video is so powerful, especially if it's on your website or your social media. I think also, really refining what your brand strategy and message is, mainly your message, and then creating a brand strategy is important, because you have to make sure that you're implementing everything that your brand encapsulates into whatever you post or you put out there. So like every post you make should somehow involve that brand. I think it's easy to kind of get sidetracked and start throwing content out there, especially if you're like really trying to grow online, stuff like that. Not to get ahead of myself, but like you want to make sure that everything you put out there, from like the colors, the fonts, the videos, the pictures, is all reflective of that story. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's perfect. Beautifully said.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, like you were just gonna say, you don't want to have a video where you're like all like Greenpeace and everything is organic and everything like that, next to another video where you're like pounding beers and like drinking like or eating like fried chicken or something like that. Like, yeah, those things could coexist, but like that brand can't really coexist. That's not like a similar cohesive brand. That makes no damn sense. Well, also, you can have two different brands that maybe do that, but
totally. To that point, and I don't want to get too bogged down into details, because when we work with people, like I would personally sit down and go through this, but there's different like branding archetypes, and depending on like where you look it up from, some have more than others. Some people have like these 8 archetypes, 5 archetypes, but you could be, for instance, like your brand is the entertainer, or the brand that's very like peaceful and serene. There's many different ways that they're classified, and I try not to get too hung up on the exact archetype, because I think that boxes people in. But to the point that you're making with having like a very green, peaceful video, you need to define your brand, like the vibe you're going for, or the feel that it emits, because that is also going to affect, for instance, the colors you choose. Because there's a psychological aspect behind the colors and even the fonts you use, and this could be a whole other episode. But for instance, purples, blues, purples tend to, a lot of like banks use purple, and royal blues, they're very like royal colors. Greens and also lighter blues are very relaxing. I worked with like a spa who would use blues, a health coach who would use like an aqua. Red we've used for like very like America focused brands. So like
red and yellow also like make you hungry. That's a thing. Like pretty much every fast food place except Taco Bell uses red and yellow.
There you go.
Because they're supposed to essentially make you hungry.
Exactly. Like CBD brands we've worked with, like I could immediately get a different feel from a CBD brand that we both know that uses red, that looks very similar to food. And then one we always work with all the time, CanAid, that has a very like, they wanted to go for a more medical driven kind of pharmaceutical vibe,
right.
if
and
you will.
Their color is exactly the color of like
a pharmacy.
scrubs.
Yeah, literally of
Yeah,
scrubs.
it's like a very hideous color, but it's on purpose.
It's not hideous. It's like a very like medicinal vibe, aqua. It's like a turquoise greenish, and it also happens to look a little bit like the Publix pharmacy logo. So I think again, people associate it with pharmaceutical stuff.
Yeah,
just right off the bat.
A fun side story, real quick.
Yeah.
I was wearing a Can-Aid hat, and I walked into Publix, and the woman who worked at the pharmacy just said how much she loved my hat. She's like, it's a really cool logo, and I couldn't tell if she was messing with me because she thought I was wearing a Publix hat or not. And so
that's
just
funny.
like, yeah. She's like, oh, it's really cool. I'm like,
She
does it
probably
look
thought
like? I was like, does it look like something? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, and I pointed over at the sign. She's like, oh.
She didn't even notice.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is, I didn't even notice. I didn't notice that either. It's just it does something in the back of your head, and then if you see them together, you're like, oh, it does look similar. And I'm not saying to copy people's logos. I'm just saying certain colors, certain fonts elicit different colors. If there's a very modern, tech heavy company we work with, I'll use very straight, modern fonts, for instance. If there's a more a marketing, or not even marketing, it was like I don't know what type of, like a production teaching type company we worked with that wanted a very like an old, almost Gothic vibe. So I used very scripted fonts and bright Gothic colors, or dark Gothic colors. So again, all of that is important to take into account when you come up with your story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, so we have video. I feel like is number one. You got to do that.
Oh yeah, we didn't. I kind of rambled, but yeah, for like
we
what
do that.
we focus on. So well, you got to focus on. I'm gonna let you talk. I promise. No, you got to focus on the very basics, which are the colors, the fonts, etc., which I'm getting through from a designer point of view. Then once you have the very base level built, you got a website. Then Corey, please answer the chat.
Then I'm just so you go with the videos.
Yeah.
If videos take a little bit more time, maybe you go with the pictures that you want to choose. If you're doing like stock photos or taking like real pictures, definitely take real pictures. You want to have it in the same vibe. That's what I was saying. You want to have that organic vibe. If you're going for that organic look, you want to have that modern, straight, maybe like stainless steel kind of like thing. If you're going for a modern tech kind of thing, you just want to keep the vibe cohesive throughout
Totally.
your emails, throughout your text messages, throughout your website, throughout your products, if you're selling e-commerce or something like that, even down to like the way you write an email or something like that, or even the picture you have on your signature or something like that. Like everything should go along with that story that you're telling.
Totally, because it'll just be one cohesive brand. And once you get there, and you're going to be much better off, and it's okay if it also takes time and it progresses, because one of the last things I wanted to say is one of my favorite aspects of branding is that it allows you to tell your story, and also you start being able to refine your story and getting it even more neat, learning a lot about yourself along the way and your business, and then also being able to sell or talk about your brand in a way that's easier for people to understand. So it's this like constant work of, it's working on your brand is a constant thing that I think as people we evolve, as brands you can evolve, and staying on top of it and knowing like how important that story is behind whatever it is you're selling is going to really take your brand from just, 1 in a million to something that really stands out and is unique and also is impactful and empowers you. Like, I'm personally much more motivated if I am working with something that I know is a personal to me and will have a personal impact on other people. So get to storytelling. Go read a book if you need to get inspired. No, but really, I think this is something to think about and just try to wrap your head around it. If you haven't thought about it before, I think it'll give you a lot of motivation and excitement when looking at your brand or business, especially if you're in a place where you're feeling stuck and you need to you want to mix things up, revive your business. This is a really good way to start.
Yeah. And so just to sum it up, what we're doing is, if you're starting a new brand, you want to, before you even go live, you want to build that story. You want to write down that story. You want to get it cohesive throughout. You want to make your website, your Facebook account, your Instagram account, all your social accounts, the same cohesive vibe. And then you start making content with that same vibe, telling that same story. And then it just kind of goes from there. People start, engaging with that story. And, it's almost like they're your friend. They're becoming like your friend, and that buys stuff from you. So it's all about that like relationship building, and it's so much less about doing hot sales and just like hot selling your brand, or your business and your items or whatever you sell.
Yeah, it's like the obnoxious marketing guys who are like, buy my ebook, swipe up, buy my.
Right.
It's just you you're.
I made $10 million without lifting one finger. Swipe up, click here, buy my ebook. Let's go.
Make
Trev in the house.
$2 million by the end of the day without doing anything. First of all, if you are sold by that, just please don't be. Those are usually 99.9% of the time scams. Also, there's usually no story behind it. I feel like as a customer, you're being sold a bag of shit. Pardon my language.
Real quick, every single time you see that Lamborghini, it is rented, they had to give it back, and they just paid it for one day. That's not their Lamborghini. Don't believe them.
100%. Very good point. Very important to keep in mind. But yeah, that is it. It is so much more powerful if you have a mom and pop shop who started this business. Their grandparents started this business. It's been passed down to their to them, and it stayed in their family, and they sell all organic stuff. They own their own farms. I'm totally making up this scenario, but I am so much more impacted by that and would want to buy something from them than the obnoxious guy who's trying to sell organic eggs like this on YouTube, and he knows nothing about farming. I don't know why that guy would be selling organic eggs, but I hope you get my point.
Hey, maybe.
But yeah, I think, Corey, what's your favorite aspect about branding?
So simple. It's because you get to tell a story in your videos, because you get to actually take it from beginning to end. Megan and I started as filmmakers, so that's kind of just ingrained in our blood. I've one of my degrees is in film. All we did was watch movies. It was all about story, because, coming from a cinematography background, everybody says the best cinematography is the invisible cinematography. Same with editing. And that's because someone is too engulfed in the story to care about what it's looking like. The worst thing you can do is be on a bad movie, and then everyone's just critiquing your lens choice or your editing or that edit or anything like that. So when you're just doing a hard sell and it's just 30 seconds of hard sell, everyone's just going to be like, this camera sucks, I can't even hear what they're saying, blah, blah, blah. But if they're if you're telling a good story, really heartwarming story, all that filmmaking is underground. It's hidden, and it's just telling the story of the brand. And so it's what's great about it. I'm so glad that we're doing marketing right now rather than in the 1920s or something like that, is that you can do that. You can basically make a short film and it's an ad.
It's true.
You're selling a brand.
It's true. All great points. So I hope this episode made sense. We went a little bit on some tangents about branding, but I think both of us are very passionate about this subject. I think we'll probably talk about it again. But yes, we are going to be doing this Let's Get Digital once a week. Again, every Tuesday. So tune back in. We will be covering all things digital marketing. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic week. My name is Megan Nager.
And I am Corey Turner, and you can find us at wakeandmakemedia.com or on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Just type in Wake and Make Media. Why don't you take it out, Megan?
And this is Let's Get Digital.